Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
So, as I said before I started this recording, it's a sad day in world history, and with the invasion of the Ukraine, I believe, and may God take whatever merit we have in the study of His Torah to somehow mitigate what appears to be a very dreadful situation developing. So may God have mercy on us all. So here goes into the Torah Tamima here. Find the place here. There we go. So once again, we are now, as you can see up here, the fifth iteration of the construction of the tabernacle, and this is where Bezalel and Oholiav and all the skilled artisans, men and women, are creating the various component parts of the tabernacle. We are aware of these from when God, back in Parshat Truma, gave Moses the original instructions regarding these pieces. But of course, we didn't get through all of Torah, and we're going to do a little bit that we possibly didn't cover back then, but it's the idea of what the sanctuary represents in all its symbolism and what it tries to teach us as to what kind of human beings, what kind of creatures we really are supposed to try to become, that's part of what life is a process of. It's so important. We just keep saying it again, and it also expresses love, the love for the potential that this has to bring the divine spirit into this world. So we're talking about the coverings of the tabernacle. I'll see what I can do to, let me go to a new share just to show what we're talking about, if I may. These are the inner curtains here. This is what they look like. We're going to be discussing these things. So please notice, so each one of these were individual curtains that are being described, and then they're sewn together, 5 of them together, and then 5 of them together. And in the middle here, that you can see, I'll see if I can increase the size a little bit. There are actually 50 loops on the side, and then on each one of these, and then the loops are put over each other, and then these are gold clasps that are then put through this. What you should know also is that, so this is going to hang over the tabernacle, and this particular demarcation is going to represent the partition. It hangs right on the partition between the Holy of Holies and the other part of the sanctuary. So this is actually, this Holy of Holies, it was, I believe, 30 cubits. 10 cubits by 10 cubits would have been the Holy of Holies, and 20 cubits by 10 cubits was going to be the rest of that sanctuary area where the menorah and the incense altar and the showbread table were placed. So that what happened was that half of this length then would hang downwards behind the Holy of Holies. And this was 20, you're going to see that this is 28 cubits. Each one of these is 28 cubits long. Okay. And so since the sanctuary was 10 cubits high, right, 10 of the cubits would hang over the roof as a roof, and then on each side, then 9 cubits would drop on either side. So there'd be 1 cubit exposed of the bottom of the sanctuary, which would have been probably the silver sockets. You would have seen those. And then we will read about another covering that's made out of goat's hair. I'm just preceding the text to just sort of summarize it for you all. The goat's hair also, but in this case, 5 and 6, and each one of these pieces again was I have to check and see how that worked out. It was 5 of them, and they were supposed to be 20. So I imagine each one of them was 4. There were 4 and cubits wide. We'll double check what the Torah tells us. But the goat's hair ones were 30 long, 30 cubits long. And so they completely covered up the inner curtain, this particular inner curtain that we're looking here, and dropped over the side of the tabernacle to its complete height on either side. And then the one that was 6 cubits, rather 6 pieces, that was made out of 6 of these hung towards the front of the tabernacle and folded back up over the front entrance of the tabernacle. So just to give you some sense of what we're about to read and see if I can give you some kind of picture about that. And we're going to take a look back into the screen. Oh, let me just one other picture while I've got it here. This is something else here. These are the boards of the tabernacle, right? These are the sockets. Sorry, it just keeps doing that. These are the sockets, right? There were tenons. This is how it actually stood up erect. And then there were these little clips that held the boards together. Here's a picture of it in color, how they held together here. And it talks about these bars that went through, and there was also a central bar. You can see, let me show you here. There was a central bar that went through these holes here and held them boards together. And this is another picture of the tabernacle. And here you can see the Holy of Holies and the holy area. This shows you here. So you can see that the covering, the cloths went down here, right? So you had part of it hanging on the other side, and then part of it that just went as far as the opening. The distance between these two parts from here to here, from the outside, I would think, would be 10 cubits. So it was 10 cubits from here to this outer wall here. We'll go back to the share. So obviously the number 10 is significant as well. As far as that is concerned, we know there are 10 commandments. I imagine to myself that it has to do with the fact that we have 5 digits on each hand, and so it represents what we do. Hands have the symbolism of doing, of our the way in which we operate in this world, and of course the idea that those operations of what we do in this world have some relationship to a divine commandment, and that what we do is in sync with the divine will. So I think that's how we might understand the number 10. At any rate, we are talking about these particular curtains here that covered the tabernacle. Orech hayiri'ah ha'achat, the length of one such cloth, shmone ve'esrim ba'ama, was 28 cubits. The rochav, and the width of it, as I mentioned, arba va'ama, was 5 cubits wide. Hayiri'ah ha'achat, each individual yiri'ah, each individual curtain. Midah achat lechol hayiriot. Each of the yiriot, every single one of those yiriot, had the identical measurement. Vayechaber et chamesh hayiriot, and he would connect 5 of the curtains, achat el achat, one to the other. V'chamesh yiriot chibar achat el achat. So hopefully you still have that picture in mind, and you can see how that picture is a manifestation of what we're saying here, of carrying out those instructions. 5 curtains he attached one to the other. Vayas lulot tchelet al sfat hayiri'ah, and he made, I would say, like loops, right? Loops of blue on the edge of one of the cloths, one of the cloths, mikatse b'machbaret, on the edge of one. Machbaret would be the five of them put together. In other words, of one collection, or I'm trying to think of the right word. What would you say? Set. Thank you. Okay, sounds good. Set. You're on the edge of one set. Thus he did on the edge of Yeri'ah, Hakitzona, on the outermost of the cloth, the curtain, outermost curtain, B'machberet Hashenit, of the second set. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just couldn't think of the word. So we can say
Machbaret versus Machberet.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. So machbaret is a pausal form. It is something that has to do with the sound and the music of the language. And because this is a pausal accent, this etnachta, and had this word been at the last, in the sof pasuk, it would also be b'machbaret. So it's the segol changing to the kamatz is called the pausal form of the word. It means exactly the same thing. And
it also takes the dot out of the bet, so it says machvaret.
Yeah, does your text also say that?
Oh, good.
Because the truth is, this actually should have a dagesh.
No, mine does not.
This is
good question.
This is a good.
It says machbaret.
Thank you. So this should have a dagesh in here. It's a misprint. This obviously there are issues of misprinting. Just stand back for a moment and look at the degree of detail that's involved in simply printing this page, right? That you have to get all the vowel signs and the trope signs and all these things. There's a huge amount of detail. And so what happens, I'm just explaining why things such as a dagesh can be left out. But the fact is that there's a grammatical rule that in an unaccented syllable, right, Hebrew takes a short vowel. So this is one syllable, right? This syllable is bam, because the dagesh here, this particular dagesh, doubles the letter. So just to make life a little bit more complicated, there are 6 letters. We know they are 6 letters. The Beit, Gimel, Daled, and Kaf, Pei, and Taf that sometimes take a dagesh. And that's the dot. The dagesh is the word for the dot that we're talking about. And that particular dot can be that letter will take that dot when it begins a syllable. There's another type of dagesh, looks exactly the same, like this. So this particular dot here is in this letter because it's beginning a syllable, right?
And by the way, they leave that off the second one. They leave that dagesh off in bamach beret.
Yes, but this
mine doesn't leave that off.
So it also says, it doesn't say vamach beret, it says bamach beret.
Right.
Okay. There are lots of rules involved in the fact that these 2 types of dots in a letter. So the other dot comes in any letter, right? Comes to double the letter. In other words, this word, just to analyze this word and parse it, right? This dot is here because this begins the syllable. This dot is here, and it's a mem, right? It's not one of the 6 letters, to double the letter. So this word is actually bam, that's one syllable, and mach is another syllable, and ba is an open syllable, meaning it doesn't end in a consonant, ba, and then ret is the last syllable. So if you were to break this word up into syllables. That's how you would syllabify this word. Now, they're also, in terms of, I've mentioned this before, this, and in some ways, I don't expect you to remember everything I'm telling you, but again, there are lots of rules in terms of the grammar here. So this is called a patach, another patach, and this is an ah, it's pronounced ah, and it is the short vowel of this ah sound here, and this is a long vowel. So this is the long ah, this is the short ah. So this again, it's complicated, right? This is a shavah, right? And again, there are two types of shavahs, okay? There's a shavah nach, meaning it's unpronounced, and it comes to indicate the close of a syllable, so that when the shavah is under a letter that closes the syllable, in other words, mach, the cha closes the syllable, it's called a shavah nach. It is a resting shavah. On the other hand, this shavah here, in this word here, opens the syllable. It's in a letter that opens the syllable, begins the syllable, and so it's pronounced so fat, right? But this is mach. So we have here, okay, a syllable that is closed, and we have one of the Beit Gimel Dalet Kaf Pei Taf letters starting a syllable. So now this letter is opening the syllable. It's starting the syllable. And we know that the rule is that when this one of these letters starts a syllable, it takes a dagesh. So it's ba mach baret. It's a mispronunciation. And likewise, I suspect, Lauren, check your text. This should be Cain and not Chain. Am I correct? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Does this letter?
So in verse 11, yeah, there should be a dagesh.
So
Yeah, mine, the JPS does that too. So, yep.
Again, it's following the rule that
Right.
in these 6 letters, if it starts a syllable, it takes a dagesh. Right. I'm going to stop here. We could obviously spend a half hour, and we spent a good few minutes just analyzing, really cutting apart and deconstructing the way the words are formed. But it's not that I expect you to remember every single thing I told you. I think it's just to give you a sense of the complexity of this and the beauty of the brilliancy of the people who analyzed it and were able to come up with the rules of Hebrew grammar. All right, let's keep going. We're on to the next word. Okay, so we were talking about the loops, these blue loops that were on the edge of each set of curtains. And then he says, Chamishim lulaot asa. He made 50 loops, be'yirah ha'echat, on the one set of curtains. V'chamishim lulaot asa biktzeh ha'yiri'ah, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain, asher b'machberet hashenit, which were in the second set. Makbilot halulaot. So what he did was he put one set, makbil means to set one on top of the other, right? So he put each one on top of the other, these loops, achat el achat, one on top of the other. Vayas chamishim karsei zahav. He made 50 buckles of gold. Vaychaber et hayiriot, and that way he attached the curtains, these sets of curtains, achat el achat, bakrasim, one to the other with these buckles, vayhi hamishkan echad. And so the Mishkan became one piece. And I'll go back and show you again what that looked like, just to now give you a sense of what we have just described. So this is what it looked like, right? Here we go. Let's see if I can do this. So you can imagine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 on the other side. And here are the loops, one placed on top of the other, and very, it's hard to see them, but these are these gold buckles that are holding it together. And so it becomes one piece, right? These are actually sewn together. This is done so that it can actually be separated. Okay, let's go back there. Okay, on to the next little piece. Vayas yeriot izim. And so now he made curtains out of goat hair. La ohel al hamishkan. In other words, ohel, we know means tent. So in other words, to tent over the mishkan. Ashtei esrei yeriot asaotam. And here he made 11. Ashtei esrei is 11 curtains. He made them. Orech hayeri'ah ha'achat shloshim ba'ama. The length of each individual curtain was 30 cubits. Remember, the other ones were 28 cubits. This one is 30 cubits. Va'arba amot rochav, and 4 cubits, the width hayeri'ah ha'achat of each individual curtain. And the other one was also 4 cubits wide. Midah achat, one measurement, la'ashtei esrei yeriot, for the 11 curtains. I am going to stop here, and give me a moment to put in the marking. And God willing, tomorrow we're going to finish. And I'm also going to see what I can do to find a picture of the goat hair curtains. So I'm going to stop the share. And if any of you, any thoughts on what you're saying?
Yeah, we're mixing linen and wool.
Yes.
Yep.
We are.
Mhm.
And again, part of that is a way of attributing uniqueness and royalty to the fact that in the tabernacle, that was okay to do, but for personal usage, it was not okay to do. And that is part of, saying that there's something unique and special about the monarch, that not everyone else can do it. So it's not, I suppose, if one can maybe misapply the term, it's not supposed to be democratic. And it's okay under certain circumstances to acknowledge the uniqueness of the position of someone and to show respect in that particular way. It's a way of showing great respect and not feeling you can just do it yourself. Yeah, good.
Democracy, democratic, whatever, democraticness. These ideals are never true. It's not like the president and, the hierarchy of the United States government is, it doesn't mean every single person is, equal in every way.
Back in South Africa, I remember in English class, we were learning like aphorisms and things like that. And one of the aphorisms that our teacher put in front of us, saying that everyone has the same access to the law, just like the Ritz Hotel.
Well, some people have better access for sure.
That was the point, of course.
I also want to say
Even
that
here.
we're talking priests as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So it's a little different than ruling of the democracy versus of the Hashem ruling
Right.
over people.
Right. I mean, that's a very good point. And the idea is that, in fact, the garments of the priests did mix linen and wool, but they were there to serve, right? I explained that the word kohen basically means minister. So, yeah. But again, it's a way of showing respect. I'm going to stop the recording here, and God willing, we will meet again tomorrow.